Hello, everyone. Once again, this is Dare to Speak. And for those of you who are wondering, judging from the title, it's something that I wanted to make clear of and to get the opinion of other people. What would you consider? I mean, I know that racism is wrong. I made that point before in other videos, and you know, s- how dumb and stupid it is and things like that. But at the same time, I try to explain why people are racist. And I mentioned in a couple of other videos about not to take things too seriously when someone is making a racial slur or a rant. And they're trying to belittle someone, like that situation that happened with me that I explained in one video. And I explained that part, and I also explained the part about it being genetic. I made a good point about it being, not only is it like environmental from something they learned, that is nature and nurture at the same time. However, there was one part that I didn't cover. I wanted to mention that part. I guess I just must have forgotten. We all know what constructive criticism is. Constructive criticism when someone makes a valid point or a well-reasoned opinion on something, either positive or negative, especially in this case, negative. They're not trying to criticize to be an asshole, but they're trying to criticize to make a point about something, to correct some kind of error or whatever. Now, what is constructive racism? Now, a couple of people that I said this to, they kind of like laughed it off and said, there's no such thing as constructive racism. Racism is racism. It's wrong and this and that. Well, yeah, but racism, not that it could also be a good thing. I don't want to say it like that, but racism is wrong, of course, obviously. But when you're trying to make a point on something and it has to be a little bit racial on that point, and they're doing it again to make a valid point or a well-reasoned opinion, then it's considered constructive racism. That's what it is. I'll give you an example. When someone says, for example, criticizing a certain neighborhood that they noticed that a lot of people in a certain area of the neighborhood was just say a lot of blacks or Hispanics, and as soon as they moved into this particular area, the crime rate started to go up, and then white people, of course, started talking and start saying, ever since the Mexicans moved in here, or ever since the blacks moved in here, the crime went up and all this burglary and all this kind of stuff like that. All this because of these stupid low rent housing that's put into the suburbs or some area of a nice neighborhood. And I'm not trying to sound racist, man, but ever since these people moved in, there's been burglaries and it's caused by them. There's already been so many arrests and this and that and I'm not trying to sound racist, man, but these black people that are doing this, or they would say it's because of these Mexicans or these Puerto Ricans or whatever the case may be, as far as race. When someone says it like that, they're kind of afraid of being labeled as a racist. So in a way, I can understand. Some of them may not be racist as heart, at heart, but they are trying to make a point about something, a valid point. Now that's a big, complete difference if someone were to say, all because of these fucking niggers or these fucking spicks, and then they're being an asshole, a straight up racist asshole. Okay, that's something. These are two completely separate things, completely separate. And when someone says, "Oh, these," I mean, it's because of these Hispanics that moved in. I mean, they're extremely ghetto, and they're not like the way like the ones that I know. They're like more laid back and they're more educated and this and that. They're trying to make a point about something about the crime and and the improper behavior at a festival. That a big fight happened because of a large amount of Hispanics or black people or people that are extremely ghetto, or gang activity or something like that. So it does make sense, and they do have the right to say that, to criticize, just as long as they're not trying to deliberately, in a very deliberate kind of way to insult that particular race or whatever. And it's not really so much of a racial thing, in my opinion. I believe it's mostly a social class thing because a large majority, if not all, of crime that involves blacks or Hispanics, they're usually ghetto, very ghetto. They have no positive role model, especially a male role model, in that sense, and they have no actual morals or ethics, no positive direction for the reasons that I mentioned earlier before in other videos. And of course, I admit, as an Hispanic, as a Chicano, I actually admit a lot of crimes are they're involving gangs, involving my type of race. Whenever there's fights, a lot of them are extremely ghetto, and they're very stupid, and they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to act correct or behave correctly, and their point of view and their empathy is just different, and their point of view is just stupid and wrong. But that's just how they are because of like I said before, the way they're brought up, their environment, and also in some cases it has to do with genetics. They're genetically born to be a punk. Actually, I should say they have a predisposition to become that way because of their bloodline. The family bloodline has to do with the family, not necessarily the race. It just has to do with the family bloodline that that gives them a predisposition to become troublemakers, thugs, or whatever like that. That's known to be true. That's already been proven in science. The warrior gene. That is one perfect example. The warrior gene is actually real. It's been proven in science. So when someone criticizes a particular race, but they're doing it in a very subtle, and an extremely subtle type of way, then they're not being racist. It's not considered racism. It's considered constructive racism, and that's what it mean. And that's what that means: making a valid point or a well-minded opinion in a very negative way. Not because they want to be mean about it. It's because they're trying to prove a point about it. And it's a very, pretty much like a real sensitive, like the thing to talk about, or a point to come across, or to bring to people's attention. And I can understand how someone would say there's no such thing as constructive racism. Racism is wrong. Racism is, I mean, it's and they'll see all these type of mean things, saying that person is just ignorant or just an asshole. But you have to just stop and think and look at it from this point of view. Making a valid point to criticize is not the same thing as making a rant that doesn't make any fucking sense. There is, like I said before, these are two separate things. So I want to get your opinion on it, and please drop any comments, and please subscribe if you really want to. I'd really appreciate it. I like to talk to more like to talk more about serious issues like this or anything else or anything that may not have covered. Do you want me to cover or to talk about? So to all of you. Oh, by the way, also too. Yesterday was my birthday. I turned 48, October 27th. So I celebrated my birthday and everything went cool. So I had my family come over and things like that. So again, to all of you, take care.